I'm really excited for this next series, talking through the various different frameworks that exist here to encourage and help businesses pursue their path to purpose. And so I'm thrilled to introduce you to our next speaker and another of the Do More Good Movement's foundational advisors, Kate Williams. Kate is the CEO of 1% for the Planet, an organization that is creating a community of businesses that are all committed to giving 1% of gross sales each year to approved nonprofit partners focused on environmental action. 1% for the Planet was founded in 2002 by Yvon Chouinard, who is the founder of Patagonia. And now with more than 3,000 business members and more than 250 million in support donated to environmental nonprofits, 1% for the Planet is truly making a difference. I'm proud that my organization, Sea Change, has been a committed member of this growing and important community for the last 3 years. We recognize our obligation to be stewards of our community and the planet, and are firmly committed to doing what we can to support and empower a healthy world for future generations to come. So with that, I will invite Kate to the stage, and please give a warm welcome and expand our circle of compassion to Kate Williams, CEO of 1% for the Planet. Thanks, Kate.
Great to be here. And great to see all of you. And I thought I'd lead off by saying album, Fleetwood Mac Rumors, concert, Phil Collins in Madison Square Garden. And I was like in the nosebleed section. So he was like a little figure on the stage, but it was awesome. And then the song that's gotten me through the last year is Maggie Rogers' Back in My Body. And she just came out with a really beautiful acoustic version of that too, which I love. So thought I'd start off with that. Love that music question. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. And I'm going to assume that you can all see this and that you'll let me know if you can't. But I'm really psyched to have this opportunity to be with you all today. And it's been so great to work with Graham and Jay and planning this, and just so grateful to all of you for being here and thinking about these topics. I really look forward to further connections. But what I'd like to do now and cover a lot of ground in a short amount of time is walk you through the 1% for the Planet model and just how we're driving change on the planet for planet and people, and how our particular model works. So 1% for the Planet, we are a global organization. We're headquartered in Burlington, Vermont, but we have members all over the world, and I'll say more about that. But we exist to ensure that our planet and future generations thrive, period. That's what we're here for. And the way that we do that is that we engage members, and are primarily businesses, but we also have individuals, to commit to giving back to environmental nonprofits, as Graham described. And that's really the simple model. And to date, we have this network, and when I say we, I'm pretty much always referring to the network, not just our organization, have given, approaching 300 million now. And our goal is to do much more. And so we're really pushing hard to focus on this environmental philanthropy commitment side of doing good, because that's a really important and unique aspect of how companies can give back. So our global community, let me just lay it out for you a little bit. We now have we're at about 5,000 members actually since this slide was made. And we were founded in the US, but we've now expanded. We're actually more than 50% international. And as you can see, it's kind of clustered in some certain areas. So France, the UK, Europe in general, Australia, Japan, and those are sort of our biggest areas. And the US now, we really think about it as, sort of that expansion into Canada. So I should say North America there. So it's been really exciting to see this growth, and we have members of all sizes and across different sectors. And that's one of the things that's also really important to, that I want to share, is where we were founded and often kind of associated, as is often the case for environmental focused initiatives associated with the outdoor industry. We actually cut across all different industries. We did a lot of kind of digging into our data last year when we were, not traveling and doing events, and learned that no more than 10% of our business member network is in any one sector. So you can sort of get a taste for that here. We're in finance, we're in outdoor goods, we're in housewares, beauty products, pretty much you name it, we are in that. One way I like to think about it is you could clothe yourself from the inside out, and you could probably secure most of the services and food that you need to survive and thrive with 1% for the Planet members. And we're also of all sizes. A lot of business networks kind of focus on a particular size. And one of the things I absolutely adore about 1% for the Planet, and that I know is really meaningful for a lot of our members, is that whether you're a tiny new startup member, sort of pre-revenue as we sometimes call it, or a really big public brand, you give your 1% and you're a equal contributor. Maybe your 1% is bigger or smaller, but it is your 1%. And so proportionally, everyone is in it together. And that's a really beautiful thing, because we really have some wonderful connections across sectors and across business sizes. So why 1%? Why are we doing what we're doing? And why are we focused on environmental philanthropy? So one of the numbers that we really focus on is the fact that only 3% of total philanthropy goes to the environment. This is a US statistic, but we've kind of spot checked it elsewhere, and it's roughly similar in other places. It varies a little bit depending on, and I won't get into those details, but it's roughly similar globally. And the unfortunate thing is that it's kind of stayed stuck there. So in the US, it's been at about 3% for more than a decade. And total philanthropy has grown in the US, so this number has gone up. But as we all know, the scope of the challenges facing our planet have also grown, and a 3%, that really small minority chunk of total philanthropy, is just not enough. So sometimes when I'm talking to smart business focused audiences, the legit question comes up, well, so why nonprofits? I mean, maybe it's only going to 3%, or 3% is all that's allocated, because that's not really the way to drive change. And the point of view that we have has sort of two parts to answer that question. The first is that nonprofits actually do play a really critical and unique role. We certainly need business to do their part. We need government to do its part. But there's always going to be that space in between where nonprofits operate. And so what do nonprofits do that's unique? They can go where there is not a market, either yet or potentially ever. So there are issues that face the planet, think about like habitat protection or urgent species needs, or addressing an issue that is new, and so there's not yet clarity on how there's a market solution. Nonprofits can say, we have a mission, we're going to go and we're going to address that based on our mission. We're beholden to that mission. So nonprofits can go where there is no market. Nonprofits can also advocate and put pressure on both the government and business sides to inspire, create, support change. Sometimes, it is pressure and advocacy and activism. Sometimes it's very, integrated partnership, which is what we see a lot of in our network of, nonprofits providing that direct support to members to address problems they're trying to solve. So our belief is that nonprofits play a really critical and unique role. And the second part of the answer is that we need everything. We need nonprofits to play their role. We need business to do everything it can possibly do. We need government to do its part. The scale of the problems is such that there's not one lever that we need to press. We need to press all of them. And so we're really focused on how do we put the pieces together to drive more support to nonprofits that then sort of builds some cross-sector support that improves impact, increases impact, and creates these partnerships that are so powerful. So why 1% for the planet? Let's dig a little bit more into that. So, and why 1%? Like, where does this come from? So when we were founded, the idea was like, what's a number that's actually big? And a lot of people hear 1% and they think, well, why are you only doing 1%? You should do 10%, you should do 50%. But I think for most of you in this audience, you're probably well aware that 1% of total sales is actually a big number. And for certain industries with smaller margins, it's actually a really big number. So it's a big commitment. And the fact is, too, that any member of our network can always give more. But it really creates this way that you're making an annual consistent commitment no matter what. And that's part of why it's sales. That's the main reason why it's sales and not profits, is it's a real big number that no matter whether you've had a great year or a tough year, you're essentially saying, no matter how we performed or how the year turned out, we still have an impact and we still have an obligation and responsibility to give back. So we're going to do that no matter what. So the high bar and the commitment to that bar is really important. And then also the certification. So the way we work is that we have our members, and I'll focus on business members. We have our business members, they commit their 1%. We advise them on giving strategies on how they can make the most of their opportunity to give. They give to nonprofit partners, who I'll talk about in a minute. And then we certify that giving at the end of the year. So it's a really credible model because we play a third-party role and we're certifying every dollar that's given. So when a company bears that logo, it's not just that they're saying they do this every year. They're saying, we've actually been certified and we have a third-party partner, 1% for the Planet, who's looking at our revenues and our donation receipts every single year and demonstrating that and verifying that we have done that. So it's a big number. It's a number that we can also wrap our heads around, and it's a commitment people can make every year. So I mentioned our nonprofits. I mean, that's really the so what. That's what it's all about. So our business members are doing the amazing work of making the commitment to give back and to give to these powerful nonprofits. The nonprofits are taking that support and creating action with it on the ground. And that action is global in scope. It's, local in impact. It's really varied. So we have, tree planting, trash cleanup, advocacy, solar installation. I mean, really, you name it, it's pretty amazing. And our staff approves the nonprofits that get supported by our members. So we have a lot of nonprofits, all of whom have been vetted by our staff to ensure that they're, high quality nonprofits supporting environmental impact on the ground. One of the things that we did this year, just to zero in a little bit, is we kind of expanded our thinking about what is environmental giving. And we've kind of always been doing that because the environment is one of those things that you can say it and we all think we know what it means, but there have always been really good questions about, like, where does environmental issue and a poverty or social issue begin? Where does an environmental issue end and racial justice or equity issue begin? And over the years, I think in a great way, those boundaries have been expanding and blurring in some really important ways. And this past year, 2020, there was really an acceleration of that thinking. So one of the things that our team has done is really expanded our thinking about how environmental justice is integrated across all of our issue areas. So, the way we organize our work is we essentially create buckets for each of the sort of broad environmental issues: climate, food, land, water, wildlife, and pollution. And then what we've been doing, over the past 12 months is really sort of exploring how environmental justice cuts across all of those. And the reason environmental justice is so important to us is that our own thinking and learning has expanded to see that, it's absolutely critical that we're seeing the impact of and the opportunity for change in, say, vulnerable communities that are most impacted by climate change, or that there have been sort of historical ways in which environmental issues have, either been addressed or not addressed in ways that have been based on sort of inequitable decision making. And so we really see that cutting across. And we also think back to our purpose, so inspiring commitment and action so that our planet and future generations thrive. So future generations, we need to really make sure that that's, broadly defined, and it's not just some future generations. So that's been a really important issue for us this year, and, just part of our continued learning journey. So just to get a little bit nitty gritty, I won't spend a long time on this, but I've touched on some of this, but just to summarize, when a member joins, we advise them. So they're not giving their money to us. They're committing to give their money directly to nonprofits. And so our role is to really support our members in understanding how the giving can be a real opportunity for them to tell their brand story, to communicate, why they are doing more good in the world, to use the language of today's conference, why they are purposeful and driven towards making change. Giving can be a really, really powerful way to tell that personal story. The great phrase that was shared with us this morning around the direct line between two people being a personal story is, we find that that's very true of the giving relationship as well, that the flow of stories between nonprofits and member companies is really, really powerful, and is such a great way for both of those organizations to really expand their story. So that's the sort of opportunity that we're really trying to advise our members and nonprofits around and make those connections. And then we certify, as I described, so credible model. And then we amplify, and that's where we help to tell the story, and we help to equip our members and our nonprofits to tell the story, because that's a great opportunity, because consumers are really interested in this. People, we want to buy products from companies that are making a difference. We want to sort of choose those brands that not only have great products, but that are making those products in such a way that there's less impact, they're giving back. And a lot of times the easiest and clearest way to communicate that is through a giving story. It often says so much about the whole of the brand beyond even just that particular giving. So that amplification is a really important piece of it. Just really quickly on another sort of nitty gritty, but I think this is valuable too, is that giving has a broad definition. So the way we look at the 1% is, of course, 100% of it can be in the form of monetary donations. So cash given to a nonprofit, that's great. But we've also found, and we've heard this from both our nonprofits and our members, that there are really great opportunities in the context of those partnerships for in-kind support, volunteering, or, in-kind donations of products for either use by the nonprofit or for auctions or things like that. And then there's also like storytelling opportunity, and we call that, approved promotional support. So when a company is investing in telling the story such that it elevates the whole partnership and the whole 1% for the planet model, such that more consumers can then say, hey, I choose that product, that drives more impact. And so that's been a really powerful way in which the way in which you can partner and do good and give back is expanded, and it's still all certified. So, whether it's a volunteer hour or an investment in advertising support, all of that is tracked and certified annually. So this is just an example. I have a couple of examples of partnerships just to kind of bring this to life, back to that storytelling model. So one of our awesome members is King Arthur Baking Company. They're a product line member with a big chunk of their flour products, and they did a really deep dive, sort of thinking about their partnerships, their giving partnerships, and they have built this great giving partnership with the National Young Farmers Coalition, which for them in a way is an investment in their supply chain, because getting young farmers on the land and continuing to farm in sustainable ways is really important, and it can be very hard in this day and age. So they've done an amazing job in that partnership and have created some videos and just really have a great story to tell. And it's a great example of how the giving can be really aligned with the operations of the company, because literally having farmers on the ground growing the product that can then be used by the company, and that's not entirely how all of the support is driven, but there is some some of that sort of flow back of the supply. It's really amazing, and that's a great example of how giving can be reconceived of as something that's more than just something you do at the end of the year when you have a little money left over. It's something that you integrate into how you do your implement your brand, how you think about your future, how you run your company. Another great example is Avocado Green Mattress and the Kula project. So this is an interesting one that gets into that environmental justice space, where Avocado, working with 1% for the planet, saw that by supporting women in Rwanda with leadership training and skills, that they were in so doing addressing climate change, because there's really clear evidence that support for women and girls in places like Rwanda has a really direct mitigating effect on climate change. And so that's been a really great partnership for them and a great story for them to tell. And then last example here is, just another really nice, clean, clear example, Clean Canteen. They do the awesome water bottles that so many of us have. I'm looking around. I don't happen to have mine on my desk right now, but almost always do. And they work with 5 Gyres. And Clean Canteen is all about eliminating the use of single-use plastic. And so for them, 5 Gyres, who focuses on cleaning up ocean trash and developing better understanding around that, is a perfect partner, because there's such a direct connection between those two. And so they've done some amazing partnership and storytelling there, and just had a lot of fun as partners working together and doing research trips together and things like that. So to sort of bring it home, our founder, John Chenard, the founder of Patagonia, and we were founded in 2002 when he and his friend Craig Matthews were fishing and just, you know, had this kind of aha moment that what they were doing with their companies, because they had already oriented their companies toward giving back, was something that really could be brought to all companies. And Yvonne has been, you know, really clear about this idea that it really just should be a cost of doing business. Don't allow yourself to think about like when we have enough money or when we get there. It needs to be sort of core to who you are and how you do your business, because effectively it's paying rent. It's giving back for the opportunity to have a business, which no matter how careful we are, every single one of us as an individual, certainly every business, has some impact on the planet. And so, you know, supporting that planet to be able to support us, to be able to have a sustainable economy moving forward is really critical. So paying rent to our planet is part of what 1% for the Planet is all about. So I'm just going to close on this last slide, just because I think this is an important topic for, you know, this larger conference, and just sort of thinking about purpose and sort of how we show up around our purpose as individuals and as companies. And one of the things that 1% for the Planet has really stepped into is the power of our logo. So as I said before, the act of certification, you know, we're a third party. So every company or individual that's bearing this logo is doing so in a way that communicates the credibility of their purpose, the credibility of the commitment that they're making. And one of the things that we've really seen is how that does create a really virtuous cycle. So brand awareness for 1% for the Planet has gone up significantly in recent years. And at the same time, we've seen more members joining organically, meaning they're knocking on our door and saying, hey, we see this, we want to be part of this. And at the same time, we're seeing the consumer data that shows, and I'm sure all of you are well aware of this, that shows, and there's so many different reports featuring this, consumers are willing to go out of their way to find brands that will do more good. They're willing to pay a little more. And of course, we all know, even if there is that willingness there, if it's made easy and it's credible, that's key, because consumers are appropriately skeptical. If it's credible, there's going to be even more. So we definitely are seeing just this great convergence of consumer interest, consumer pressure, perception of different sort of logos and different strategies that give those consumers the confidence that the brands are really making a change. And then, you know, that greater brand awareness is sort of fitting into that and both like driving that change, but also responding to that change. So that's been a really powerful metric for us recently, because it really tracks to more impact is associated with greater brand awareness. And I think that's great for, you know, so many purpose-driven companies to think about, is doing the right thing and telling that story, building that straight line connection is so powerful and is such an opportunity. So really invite all of you to sort of think about that and really look forward to the opportunity to answer any questions as we move forward.